This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, this is the one I can feel it. Podcast. The first and the best Chiefs podcast. Real ones know the show is called Amateur Hour. The Amateur Hour podcast is now airing on KC Sports Network. Ryan Scott Hall and his Dirkness are back again. We've got football, friendship, and fun. All these shows, we're still number one, season 12. Oh, wow, here it comes. Welcome, my friends, to Amateur Hour podcast. Podcast. Man, I can't hit that note right. Podcast! Is that right? Well.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
What is this, Amateur Hour?
Yeah, I ain't no Superman businessman like you. You know, I'm just an
amateur,
I suppose.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
Amateur Hour
Is what's happening.
Yeah, that's right, folks. The show is called Amateur Hour. I am Ryan Scott Hall, and joining me today, a prolific playoff performer in his own right, his Dirkness.
The Super Bowl, baby. Super Bowl.
You're having a hard time deciding which one you were going to go with, or you just wanted to put them all in there. It's a mashup.
They both fix. They both fit. I couldn't stop saying it when it happened. Like MVS to the Super Bowl. I actually, do you remember me calling that? It was for the Miami game. I was like, MVS makes a big catch at the end of the game to ice it. Didn't get it Miami a few weeks early on that one, but we got it.
I mean, dude, we're headed to another Super Bowl. Like, how are you feeling?
How am I feeling? I mean, you gotta fight. Oh man, I love how Kelce can just fit that into any question. Jim Nantz could have asked him any question in the world. It's like, yeah, here I go. You gotta fight. But no, I'm feeling jubilant, feeling great, feeling a little defiant. Got my chest puffed out a little bit. Like, how dare you? To the NFL, to the fans, to the media, to everybody. I mean, this disrespect is not just like made up out of thin air. Like, everybody was on the Ravens this game. So it had me feeling a bit nasty during the game, but, you know, this Chiefs team is a bit nasty themselves now. I mean, they're a defensive team. They get nasty. They can play ugly. We'll get to that. But it's also got me feeling a little bit reflective. For those who don't know, we started this pod all the way back in 2012 during what might have been the worst season in NFL history. We had the Belcher incident, obviously. I was looking through some stats here. No lead until week 10. No opening drive score for forever. I couldn't find, it was like 26 games or something. I couldn't find the actual number. How about a negative 24 turnover differential? How about dead last in scoring on offense and 26th on defense? And we ended the season 38-3 in Mile High Stadium with 119 yards of offense to Denver's 488. Yikes. And yet, here we are today, 11 years later. And I'm not sure everybody is acutely aware of this, but the Chiefs are on the doorstep of the best 5-year stretch in NFL history. So 5 teams have won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, which the Chiefs will match if they win the Super Bowl this year. Pittsburgh did it twice in like a 4-year stint. Dallas did it in the 90s, and then the Patriots have done it 2 different times. But only the 2014-18 Patriots includes a Super Bowl loss and AFC Championship game loss, which would match perfectly what the Chiefs would have done the last 5 years. But the Chiefs have more regular season wins and playoff wins than them in that time period. And thus, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, you're looking at the best 5-year stretch in NFL history. So we've been reflecting on this journey a bit, wanted to kick it old school today. So in honor of starting Amateur Hour 11 years to go today, going from the worst to now the best, folks, we're doing a special edition Best and Worst Amateur Hour podcast coming to you tonight. Here we go.
Best and worst. All right.
It's back. It's back, baby. Let's just dive right into it. The best way to start a game with a score. Makes sense. Andy Reid has now started 8 straight playoff games with a score. 8 straight playoff games. Any doubt that Andy still saves his best stuff for January? Any doubt about that? They come out of the game quick to Kelce, quick to Pacheco, quick to Rice. They get all 3 of their stars involved, all 3 of their best targets. Then they go run. 4th and 2 over the middle to Kelce, run again, and then a TD throw to Kelce, a beautiful TD throw to him. Like, what an opening drive to establish the tone. I think it got Baltimore shook from the start. They were just like, holy shit, they didn't know what hit them. They came out and played physical. It was beautiful to watch. And I was not aware of that stat at all, that Andy Reid has now scored on his opening drive in 8 straight playoff games, an amazing streak.
You know, when you started putting together the whole best and worst thing, like one of the things that I had stashed was Andy's opening script, the first 15, right? This week, it was like the first 26, I think, given the 10 and 16 play touchdown drives to start the game. I didn't know if like the opening script thing was going to be a talking point for a lot of people. Maybe that's just me being a dummy, because they obviously didn't do a whole lot for the rest of the game, really.
All they needed.
But to see the team come out and look like they have complete confidence, they're in absolute control of the game. And especially that second touchdown drive, they just like ripped the hearts out of every Raven on the field and every fan in the stands. I mean, it was diabolical. 9 minutes off the clock, just grinding it out over 75 yards. And I don't know, man. I at that point was like, what are we in for today? You've seen fireworks from both teams. They come out so hot. The Lamar touchdown, the escape plan in 7.5 seconds before he even throws the ball. It got me excited about, like, we might be watching like 2 real titans of football here facing off. I don't know if the Ravens held up their end of the bargain, though. And so when I think about that opening script from Andy, I'm just like, man, it's almost like we lost sight of it this year. It wasn't something that happened pretty frequently where they're coming out. I mean, we look at the first quarter scoring for the Chiefs this year, and they were middle of the pack. They were averaging about 4.5 points a game in the first quarter. So to come out like that on back-to-back drives, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful from Andy in that opening script.
Yeah, and really, I mean, what that first, I mean, it kind of set the tone, like I said, which gets us to our next best and worst here. Best way to handle a bully? To bully the bully, as coined by Drue Tranquill on the field after the game. I mean, the Ravens looked so discombobulated out there, like they just took a few left hooks, right, what's another punch? Uppercut, a right uppercut, there we go. And we just kind of pushed them around on both sides of the line. I mean, to start the game, marched right down the field the game to start twice and had them shook. I mean, they started lashing out at each other. They're throwing their little tantrums because they weren't used to it, to being pushed around like that. And then they started begging the refs for help, and they needed excuses because they weren't up to the challenge. It was just like, and that was like their whole brand. Like their whole brand of football is, we're the most physical team in the NFL. And the Chiefs are thought of, you know, because we've seen what they've done on offense the last, 5 years here, they're thought of being like this high-flying offense that does all this scoring and stuff, but can't really play defense. And that's kind of what led to the disrespect the whole time, because nobody wants to admit how good this defense is, and they have just taken that personally. So they came out, and they, in their home stadium, against the most physical team in the NFL, and just bullied them around. I mean, the Ravens, their body language was like, holy shit, bad, and they really just freaked out and panicked. Like the whole game felt like a Ravens panic, where if they could have settled into the game, they could have made it close. But they just could never really calm down and like regather themselves within the game. And they just looked, they looked foolish out there, in my opinion. And like they just got completely bodied and they did not handle it. They're not used to that happening to them. It doesn't really happen at all. And we saw it happen on the biggest stage.
And honestly, man, like what it came out to for me, before the game was trying to look at this matchup and I told people, I said, like, look, the margins in this game are razor thin, even though everyone is heavily favoring Baltimore. It's, we can say that Mahomes is subtly better in different ways than Lamar. Maybe the Baltimore defense is a little bit better than the Chiefs. But like, guys, if you look at these categories, like apart from turnovers, Baltimore had 4 more sacks. The Chiefs allowed like 30 more points on the season total, 65 more rushing yards on the season total. These teams looked like they were neck and neck in so many different ways. And so what's going to separate them? It's the playoff experience. It's this team having been there before. And I said, this is the one area of the game where like one advantage really heavily favors one team, and it's the Chiefs. And when you talk about the way that Baltimore looked, how shook they were in that game, how about 5 personal fouls? 5! They had 5 15-yard penalties, and it's 5 different guys all on their well, actually, one of them was Zay Flowers, so 4 on defense, 1 on offense. I go through and look at it, and it's just like, anytime that Patrick Queen or Roquan Smith is getting some extra after the whistle, trying to twist somebody's ankle when they're tackling them, all these different stupid things. It's like, guys, there's a difference between acting tough and being tough. And the stuff that Baltimore was doing was just like childish, fake toughness. And I go through and I watch these Chiefs, man, and I'm just like, every time that the Ravens, especially on defense, are chirping, did you see the clip? Kelce is laughing at them because they're so mad and they're so serious. And it's just like they have no response for what the Chiefs were doing on both sides of the ball. And ultimately the defense stepped up. And if we want to talk about some of the way that Baltimore did settle into the game defensively, sure. But they did not play with any level of composure. And the Chiefs just looked like a team that knows what it takes to win. The unfortunate thing, I think, when we look at this and we kind of zoom out is now, as our buddy Rob pointed out, it was something I was thinking about too. It's like, why is the reaction to this game about Todd Monken's failure or what the Ravens did wrong and not looking at the fact that Spags and Andy out-coached and the players out-executed? The Chiefs were better. And frankly, I think that they were better in so many ways that may not even be reflected on the scoreboard.
A perfect lead-in to the next best and worst. The worst representation of that game, the score. 17-10. 17-10. It won't go down like this in history because people will look back and the stats are like dead even, and the score, it's a 7-point game, and it's just like, well, it looks like the Ravens just like turned it over a few times and they probably got unlucky and it was a really close game. Everybody who watched that game knows the Chiefs just kicked the living shit out of them. Like, they parked the bus in the second half and it was just like, we have a 2-score lead, and we don't think you can score 2 times on this defense. And we're going to just sit here and run clock and keep you at an arm's distance and play this game out. And the Ravens never had the ball within a score in the second half. And the really one thing that the Chiefs did to them here, the worst style of football to oppose, because Chiefs fans know possession style football. What is more irritating than playing the Chiefs over the last few years, and the other team just like keeps the ball, and we can't get the ball in Mahomes' hands, and it's just like, man, it gets so frustrating, and then you only have 3 possessions by halftime, and then you start pressing, and then you get out of your sorts, and you lose your game plan, and only run the ball 6 times on offense when that's your whole identity. Like, the possession style of football that they started to play, the Ravens looked at that scoreboard, 14-7, and they started panicking like, holy shit, we're playing Patrick Mahomes, and he is on fire. Like, we got to take it to the max right now. And they didn't. It was like a Jedi mind trick, and they just lost themselves, took themselves completely out of the game, and as we have said, never regathered themselves, and really just got beat up on national TV for the whole world to see.
I have a load of thoughts on this, but we'll do those right after this break.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
So you guys are Chiefs fans, you're sports fans, you're amateur hour fans, you're KC Sports Network fans, but I want you to become fans of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. You can share your love of sports by volunteering with these folks and coaching some local youth. We need your help today. So beyond the after-school programming that the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City have put together, they also have sports leagues for baseball, softball, basketball, flag football, and more. So if you find yourself coaching from the couch during games, just consider coaching from the sidelines by volunteering with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. You can learn more at helpkckids.org and just click on volunteer for more information.
Your company can hit it out of the park with a sports league sponsorship with Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Kansas City. Reach thousands of local families while giving the kids the opportunity to get in the game. Contact Giving at helpkckids.org for more information.
Well, Dirk, you said that, this is like the worst style of play to defend, like the playing keep away, so to speak.
It was tough. Yeah, that's what I said.
So one of the things I found really interesting about this, and I think it speaks to like what this Chiefs team was able to evolve into, is how different this game was from the Bills game. If you go back and look at last week and how the Bills had the ball for like 38 or 39 minutes and the Chiefs had to be really efficient without necessarily possessing the ball, honestly, at least until the fourth quarter, the Bills were running the ball all up and down the field on the Chiefs. They were having no trouble really doing much of anything until Josh Allen panicked in crunch time in the fourth quarter. But I thought the Bills were the more physical team. I really thought that the Chiefs were in some ways against Buffalo kind of getting pushed around. They didn't seem like they had the same level of physicality. And yet then we see it's like a complete role reversal. But the Ravens just didn't have what it took to be able to stick with a team that had the ball for 35, 36, 37 minutes, whatever it is. I mean, the Chiefs, whether it's the ability to shut down the run for the Ravens. I've seen you retweeting some clips here and there about the way that the Chiefs were aligned, basically just like daring the Ravens to run. Like, we are going to shut you down. We are not, the run game is not what it's going to be today. The idea that you get to force Lamar to throw the ball, which I'm sure we're going to have to pick at that one a little bit.
How dare you?
I just, man.
Get him out of here.
I really thought that the fact that the Chiefs were able to suddenly stop the run, own the ball, be more physical, it's like this whole kind of identity switch. And one of the things that I think really jumped out to me, you were talking about how like those two opening drives were basically all that they needed. And you mentioned that in the second half, it was almost like we shut things down. We parked the bus. And I kind of started to wonder, like, I think I even saw somebody tweet you that was like, did we really see Andy Reid shutdown mode in the AFC Championship game? And honestly, I started thinking, I was like, it is kind of Andy Reid shutdown mode, but honestly, you know what it was? It was Steve Spagnolo shutdown mode. Like they just completely shut down the Ravens, who scored 3 points in the second half. And hey, you know what? Congrats to the Ravens. You guys scored in the second half of a football game. That's a rarity this year, folks. The Chiefs are allowing like 4 points in the second half of games in the last 8 weeks. I mean, they've only given up 3 in the second half of the AFC playoff run to the Super Bowl. Spagnolo shutdown mode, maybe a thing. Maybe a thing.
Could be, but the best marketing campaign from this weekend, the In Spags We Trust t-shirts. Man, those are everywhere. It was hard to miss. Every single player was wearing them. Every single person in Kansas City is trying to buy it for $65 now. It was clearly the Chiefs have seemingly had like different rallying cries every week. You know, after that Dolphins game, people were just, I mean, it was kind of like Travis Kelce answering a question. And he was just like, they asked him anything, fight, you got to fight. And this was like, they'll ask him anything, like, because L'Jarius Sneed didn't get all pro. And she's like, that's not what I asked at all, but awesome. Yeah, cool. I mean, this week, I don't think you heard it as much, but I think the t-shirts said plenty of that. And it was a rallying cry around Steve Spagnolo not being up for assistant coach of the year, while Baltimore's offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, was. Like, holy shit, like, thank you for that. Like, how is Spagnolo not up for assistant coach of the year? Spagnolo is fantastic. I said as soon as last week ended, and it was just kind of like, defense was kind of like survival. Like, the Bills give you a lot of problems. They went in with the game plan, we're going to let them run the ball and let Josh Allen make a mistake. He didn't really make the mistake, so it was kind of pressing until the very end, and they held on and did enough. But I guarantee you it crushed Steve Spagnolo to try and play like that. And he came out this week, and it's like, okay, now we're going to take it to the opposing offense. Because if you look at those tweets that I'm clipping, or clips that I'm tweeting, there we go, they're showing that the Chiefs are in heavy personnel. They're forcing the Ravens to throw the ball. Like, so part of this was the offensive coordinator flipping out and not calling enough runs. But another part of it was they're lining up and looking at heavy personnel. And the smart thing to do out of that is pass. So I think that's kind of what led to it. It was Spagnolo City out there. This was his week. I thought it as soon as last week ended, and he came out and just dominated the game. He has to be the MVP from this game.
Another week from Spags where the way that he mixed things up seemed to throw the other team off significantly. I saw a video from Orlovsky that said that the Chiefs were in 6 different alignments, so formations defensively, and that on 51 of 57 snaps, they had 5 defensive backs on the field. So the Chiefs were probably, I would think, in quote-unquote big nickel a lot, where it's a 3 safety look and not necessarily a 3 corner look, which maybe speaks to your idea of what is the nickel? What is that position, or the slot?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
But I found it really interesting that the Chiefs technically maybe played light because they were adding a 5th defensive back, but he was doing all these different weird alignments. He had a 2-4, he had a 3-3-5. He, it's like just mixing up the front and the looks. I marvel. 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 3 turnovers, 2 of which are in the end zone, only 10 points allowed. And one of the things that you pointed out about basically like giving Baltimore the pass, I'm going to line up in a way that is telling you throwing the ball is the smart decision. And going into the game, one of the things that I was telling people I wanted to see, if they can pull it off against a mobile quarterback like Lamar, I want Spags to try to force the Ravens to play the same way that we try to have Cincinnati play. Throw the ball outside the numbers, deep down the field. It's the lowest percentage throw that's out there. So can we just force Lamar to do that? Because I want our corners against their receivers. I want our corners against any set of receivers in the NFL. And so can we lean on that? Can we force teams to throw at our best players? And here's the thing. Throughout the year, Lamar found a lot of success doing that. Like, I've listened to Mina Kimes talk about him all year long. Teams are daring Lamar to throw down the sideline, and he's doing it really well. And I'm like, they haven't played against Snead and McDuffie. They haven't played against Jalen Watson, who can carry anybody down the sideline. I don't care who you are. Bring on Jerry Rice. I just thought that's somehow, mostly, I guess, maybe a lack of adjustments from Baltimore, but they walked right into it, man. They did exactly what the Chiefs wanted them to do. And I think that maybe that's where some frustration comes from, like, national people. Like, we didn't see Baltimore at their best. They didn't even do what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, that's Spagnolo praise, baby. You're just not saying the right combination of words. All right. In Spags, we trust. And, look, the only person that I really heard mention that Spags wasn't up for assistant coach of the year was in the post game, where Chris Jones still has the battle, the ongoing battle with Steve Spagnuolo's last name. Steve Spagnolo. Coach Stevie, my guy. I mean, but they love him. They absolutely love Steve. And in many ways, I think that we might be looking at, because of this performance, what the Chiefs defense is able to do right now. Like, they're starting to add to, if not ultimately define, the narratives of, like, some of the quarterbacks in the AFC. I mean, when you shut the door on guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, man, like, it's what Spagnolo is doing that gives talking points to people about these quarterbacks that aren't Patrick Mahomes.
Now, see, I have a bit of a slight with that. And so we're going to get to the next worst here. The worst game of his every season, the playoff game. The stat with Lamar Jackson.
Oh, Lamar. Okay.
Lamar Jackson, that he's had the fewest points he's scored in that season every year has been in the playoffs.
Wow.
Was mind-blowing. Because, I mean, this is really tough because I like Lamar, and I think everybody likes Lamar, which is why I don't think the conversation about him is always that honest, and people get really upset when you say, like, make him throw. And I think it, like, traces back to the Bill Polian thing, I'm sure, and there's some racial components in there. When I'm really just like, I want to talk ball, and it's like, dude, Steve, I mean, the whole Chiefs game plan was make Lamar throw the ball. Like, I'm sorry that's the truth, but that's the truth. He's one of the best running quarterbacks. Honestly, he's not really as fast as he used to be. I was much less scared than I have been of past Lamar. So that's kind of one thing. But the entire Chiefs, I mean, they wanted him to throw the ball. They weren't going to let them run it. They weren't going to let him run it. They're going to see what you can do, like we talked about, and test those corners out there. And it's the conversation about him is weird. And I don't totally get why. I'm sure it's the polling thing. But just that stat kind of blew my mind. He really had numerous plays like that could have gone disastrously. I mean, he almost had that 25-yard intentional grounding early on. I still never saw a good replay of that. I think it lands basically just past the line of scrimmage, right at the line of scrimmage on the sideline. There's also a receiver kind of there, so I don't know what they called there. It would have been nice if the broadcast discussed that. Kind of a big play. It was the touchdown drive. Like, we might have shut him out if they called that. I mean, he had another one. He took a sack on a 3rd and 1 when he's just running around, and it's like an obvious just throw the ball away, and he just like slides and moves it to 4th and 4. They pick it up, so it didn't end up costing him, but it's still like, what are you doing? He had a few other right in McDuffie's hands that he got rid of at the last second. He hit Justin Reed, almost got my pick 6 that I predicted on that deflected pass. And instead, it turned into the best play of the year. Lamar catching that pass. I was I was like cackling with how crazy it was. He almost takes that to the house. If you see like the wide view, there's basically like a safety that might have an angle on him. But dude, there is a world where he catches that pass and takes it 80 yards for a touchdown. And that's like, that play goes down as like in NFL history of like one of the 3 coolest plays you'll ever see. That was a wild scene.
I cannot tell you the volume and the veracity of the sigh of relief that I had when they just tackled him. Like, just tackle him. That's all. It's an amazing play. Can you just bring him down? Because if he would have scored, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the team can rally. I don't know if I'm going to rally. I'm going to be absolutely terrified. This Marcus Mariota-ness of it all, and everything. Like, I'm just, It was an absolutely incredible play. It was kind of crazy because all Lamar did was really just like have a better view on the ball and attack it because he came out of his hand, and so he got like the best line on it. Yep. And there's like 3 Chiefs defenders that could have nabbed that, but they just didn't necessarily expect that Lamar was going to be so aggressive. He got the offensive rebound. All right, great for you, Lamar.
That's exactly what it was. It's like the guy who misses the free throw. He knows where it's going more than anybody else, so he can kind of beat everybody to the spot. Yeah. Just an insane play. And you know who made that tackle? I'm going to make a bold proclamation. The best player on the field in this game, Drue fucking Tranquill. He made that tackle. Basically, from Lamar's already moving faster than him. Drue has to catch up to him, and he's able to catch up to him and get him down. So he's the one that prevents that potential 80-yard touchdown reception to himself. The clips of Drue Tranquill just wrecking the running game. And that's not even his strength. His strength is supposed to be in pass coverage. And yet you're seeing him bust through the line like the few times that they did hand it off, and people are just like, man, no wonder the Ravens didn't run it more. Like Drue Tranquill is just busting through here and tearing these up like they were just squatting on every single run, especially on the early downs. Drue Tranquill was everywhere. I was extremely impressed. I hate that Willie Gay got injured, but the linebacker trio of Bolton and Tranquill and then part-time Chenal is just like, give me that for forever. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to re-sign Willie Gay. I will gladly overpay Drue Tranquill. If we let him leave after the season, I will be livid. I've reached a point. Drue Tranquill is an amazing football player. I'm floored by him.
Dude, he really showed out. He really did. This seems like a guy. It's like every time he talks, he's giving so much gratitude for being in Kansas City, talks about how valued he feels being here, and really like what a privilege, what an honor it is to play for this team. And I find it really interesting that for whatever reason, after being this player for the Chargers, they didn't see the value in him. I mean, the Chiefs did not, they barely had to pay the guy any money. He got like $3 million on a 1-year deal, and he has become indispensable. And to me, what I see in him, I see a guy that for the Chiefs should be like arguably one of their top priorities going into this offseason. And there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, he can be the guy that takes over for Bolton if he goes down. Frankly, there might be scenarios where you want him like being the green dot over Nick Bolton. It allows you to hedge if you decide that maybe Nick Bolton isn't the future of your team in the middle of that defense, and Drue Tranquill is. They're really not that far apart in age, believe it or not. And I don't know, man, but when you started to see the two of them together, I think to that play, when he is on the blitz and just is like in Lamar's face, and Lamar keeps going backward and backward and backward. I mean, that's the intentional grounding, eventually, right? Which I think should have been called, maybe. I, for some reason, was like, did he get outside the tackle box? I don't even know. Regardless, like it's like that pursuit, that energy. And I think that the first clip that you see in Baldy's breakdown on Drue Tranquill is when he steps into that hole and just it's like Patrick Ricard runs into a wall. He does not move an inch. And Tranquill is seemingly like the smaller, more athletic guy. And it's just like this dude, I mean, and what? You look back to the text message, the recruiting from Andy Reid. He's see red, see Super Bowls, and he is just like living in it, man. It's so wonderful. Like I'm absolutely thrilled that he's part of the team. And that has got to be a major priority for them this offseason. He's not like the headline guy that a Chris Jones or a L'Jarius Sneed is, but he is an essential part of what they've been able to do this year, and a really unsung hero in my eyes.
That's well said there. Tranquill's a Chief. He just didn't know it until he got here. That's and you always feel happy for those guys because this is his first ride. Like most of this team went to the Super Bowl last year, but like some of the new guys that are around, it sucks that like Amina who got hurt. Donovan Smith, although he had one with Tampa Bay, but just like other new guys on the team. I remember feeling it for Jerick McKinnon so hard last year. Just like, man, this guy wants it so bad. And he wasn't around the first time. Like you always want to bring in that new blood like that. That's just like desperately hungry for a Super Bowl like that.
And so Minahu's in that same category. And like, we'll probably touch that next week when we're talking about the Super Bowl, but fuck, man, that's terrible.
Sucks.
It's a terrible thing for a guy that like literally all he tweeted about all year long was Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. That is why I'm here. Man.
Yep. And yeah, another clip in that Tranquill just tosses, they say a Pro Bowl center. I think their center is
Linderbaum.
And he fucking throws him to the ground. Like he's not quite in there it's just kind of like to the side, but he's like pulling around and just like coming right at him. And Tranquill throws him to the ground. Like that guy's a monster.
Yeah, it didn't look any different from when Trey Smith just like smacked that dude that was coming late on the blitz, a little defensive back. Like, I mean, Tranquill essentially did that to Linderbaum. Now, in fairness, Linderbaum was like the book on him was that he's playing at like 275. He's Casey Wigman. He's way too small, but he's so good. He's athletic, all these different things. And they said the same stuff about Jason Kelce, and look at him. So, yeah.
All right, a few more things on the defense, a few quick hitters here. George Karlaftis, best pass rush win of his career. It was kind of weird because I think we saw Omenihu kind of get like the effort sack when he takes like the long way around and comes and gets Lamar for the strip sack. George Karlaftis, we are not used to seeing this from him. An immediate win with a little Tamba hand swipe, get those hands off me, and just on the quarterback in, probably 2.5 seconds, I would guess. Like one of those, when they chart the really quick sack, that's not George's strength. He's an effort guy, strong against the run and doing all that, does all the little things well. Not used to seeing that from him, though, and that was fantastic to see.
That's a play that I woke up thinking about on Monday. Like, I felt like in some ways that particular play was almost like a microcosm of what that defense represents. He did that with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the defense had looked like out of gas, especially after the 2 drives that Baltimore ended. They ended up in turnovers, but they drove the field both of those times. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, man, like, gosh, George is out here sucking wind. I think Josh Briscoe even tweeted, this is the first time I've ever seen Karlaftis look tired. And then suddenly, literally like out of nowhere, arguably the best rep of his young but very impressive NFL career. And dude, George has already, after 2 seasons, become such a better player than I think any of us were expecting. Like he has reached a level where I'm like, dude, what is he going to look like 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road? Because it is so exciting what he's put together. And my God, man, he and McDuffie both in the first round off that Tyreek trade, just master class from Brett Veach in bringing Karlaftis and McDuffie together in the same year.
Best supporting actor from the game. That Academy Award goes to Dion Bush. Yes. It's kind of a Chiefs backup safety tradition with Kendall Fuller, who, he's a corner now, but he played the role of backup safety back in that 2019 year and gets the game-clinching interception in the Super Bowl. And here's Dion Bush, who plays 3 plays on the day, one of them being the game-clinching, basically game-clinching interception, with just a horrible throw into 3 triple coverage where Isaiah Likely calls for the ball in triple coverage. The gall of calling for the ball at that point. Great play by Dion Bush. How about best response? I've got this as a toss-up. So everybody knows about Snead giving up that deep play. He's kind of in a zone. I'm not sure where he's going, but he kind of gets lost there and kind of gives up that deep play to Aguilar. So he comes back and forces the fumble. Everybody knows that. But McDuffie, later on in that game, gets beat really bad on a corner route. Oh, this one's to Aguilar. That first one must have been to Flowers. My bad.
It was Flowers, yeah.
So McDuffie gets beat by Aguilar on a corner route. He's kind of like, he's not even close to him. The next play, it's a slot fade right back at McDuffie to Odell Beckham. And it's Lamar's best thrown ball of the day, probably. And it's the one where like the guy has a chance. And McDuffie is just all over it on a route that's extremely tough to cover with a slot. He's got all that to the sideline to work with. and McDuffie is just all over with picture-perfect coverage. It was a fantastic response to getting beat, and the very next play was the Deion Bush interception. So just a huge turnaround for both of them. Did one of them stick out to you? Like everyone knows the Snead one, obviously, but that McDuffie one really stuck out to me too.
So a couple things going on here. When I think about Deion Bush, this like next man up mentality that they have, and it's like, I mean, at what point we're talking about the third quarter of the game, and he just comes off the bench for 3 plays, and one of them is this. I guess it would have been the fourth quarter. The interception is a phenomenal play, a terrible throw from Lamar Jackson, but guys, I don't know if people realize like how little Deion Bush has played this year. He's on the practice squad until like a few weeks ago. And yes, he has been a part of the team. He has played a bigger role on the team than what has happened this year. And so he's certainly an experienced player. He started like a every other game during his rookie contract in Chicago. So it's not like he's never played. But people, this is like a pinch hit home run. All right. This is somebody coming off the bench completely cold and being plugged into the AFC championship game in the fourth quarter, and they make that play. Only on the field for 3 plays. I mean, that's why he's the best supporting actor. When we're talking about the best recovery, whether it's the McDuffie play or the Snead play, look, man, the Snead play, really that Snead sequence.
Snead-quince? Is it Snead-quince?
The Snead-quince. That is a strained pun, but I'll take it. This is my favorite part of the game, I think. And it's because you see the difference between the Chiefs and the Ravens, all just kind of set up in this little, like whatever it is, 3 or 4 play stretch. Snead loses somehow his responsibility in coverage, or there's some other bust, but he is the closest defender to Zay Flowers, who catches a ball, 30 yards down the field and then gets a little bit of extra yak. And ultimately, Snead is able to make a difficult tackle in order to keep Flowers out of the end zone. And Flowers gets up and spins the ball and talks a bunch of shit to him while Snead is on the ground. He gets the 15-yard penalty. However many plays later it is that they hit Zay Flowers on this crossing route and he turns upfield, I mean, he then dives toward the end zone, and Snead is able to make the recovery and punch the ball out like 6 inches from the goal line. And because Flowers is so pissed off about this fumble, he goes to the bench and punches it or whatever and cuts his hand, and it is like bleeding profusely on the sideline. And guys, like this right here, like this is that experience that I'm talking about. That is the difference in the game. Snead gets beat, makes the play a few plays later. When he gets beat, the Ravens lose their composure and lose 15 of the 30 or 40 yards that they gained on the play to begin with. And then Snead makes the heads up play to force the fumble, and Flowers goes and cuts his hand on the bench. And I don't know how much, if any, time he missed, but it just felt like it screams like this is what this game is right here. The Chiefs being able to do what you need to do, and the Ravens just completely losing their cool in the process.
I mean, you talking like that, it reminds me of Travis Kelce in like 2015. Yeah. And he gets like a super stupid unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in a playoff game against the Steelers, I want to say. And it was just like, we weren't used to the stage, and we got too excited and overexerted ourselves and cost the team. Like that's kind of what it reminds me of, a team that wasn't quite ready, new to the scene, and just not ready for that kind of game. And so that kind of goes with the experience perfectly. Let's transition a little bit here. We're going to go with worst idea, poking the Mahomes and Kelce Bears. Because Justin Tucker, before the game, is deciding to kick field goals from the checks notes goal line, where they'd snap the ball 7 yards deep in the end zone, because that's a totally good kick. Like who doesn't want to practice that? I have no fucking clue what he's thinking. And then this is how disrespected the Chiefs were in going into this game. People treated it like, oh man, Tucker's going to hit a 68-yard field goal now. Like he has a bigger impact on the outcome of this game than Patrick Mahomes. That was people's initial reaction. And it's just like, dude, you guys you're not acute of what's going on. You're not aware of what's going on here. It was kind of like his own Scott Norwood, Tyler Bass moment, but more impactful than those guys' fuck ups. And then just last thing on this, he had a quote after the game. I thought it was all just some gamesmanship, all in good fun, but hey, they seem to be taking it a little more seriously. And it's just like, that is a microcosm of that football game. Mm-hmm. You guys were looking for good fun, and the Chiefs came in ready to kick your ass and go to the Super Bowl. Like that's yeah, we were not there for good fun. Get the fuck out of our way and let us warm up.
Did you hear Mahomes with Carrington today? Mahomes said that a kicker warming up in the area of where the offense is doing their like little, we're going to go through some patterns. I'm going to just chuck the ball out at half speed, whatever. He said it's only happened 3 times in his career. All 3 times in Baltimore. Justin Tucker has done this 3 different times, and all 3 times it's been on the road in his home stadium. And so I just look, I think that if I'm a Ravens fan, I might in some way, shape, or form think like, dude, even our kicker is a pest. Look at him just fucking with the other team. This is great. But like, what are you thinking, man? Like Justin Tucker, and like you said, look, I know that some people will probably still claim that he's the best kicker of all time, but I just don't understand why the kicker wants to mix it up with the quarterback and tight end, who are the greatest postseason duo in NFL history. Justin, do you not understand? Like, he's just not thinking. And I guess, like you said, maybe they're taking it more seriously. I thought I was just having some fun with them. And like,
nope.
How much fun did you have after that, Justin? Did you have a fun day? Did you enjoy that?
And I mean, does he not know that? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is pettier than anybody out there. Like, he takes shit like this way too seriously and uses it to motivate him. Like, I mean, it's just the guy that would go up and talk shit to Michael Jordan before, like the fucking towel boy going up and talking to him before the game. Like, what is this guy thinking? Like, what? Oh man, this guy's gonna hand out so many towels this game. Look out! The Blazers towel boy is gonna be electric. They are gonna be so wiped clean. It's gonna be amazing. Like, that was the takeaway. I could not believe that. Like, are you guys fucking insane?
It is so stupid. So stupid.
All right, I've lost my sights here. All right, let's go. Best play of the year from the Chiefs. So I don't remember audibly gasping at a play all year from Patrick Mahomes in the offense. I've done this many a times over the years. This is kind of like just the in the moment, like, oh, holy shit, like left-handed throw and all, numerous times throughout his career, obviously. Until Mahomes scrambling around for over 9 seconds. I think it's 9.5 seconds. It was the 4th longest time to throw all NFL season. And then just kind of flips it out there to Kelce, who makes an unbelievable diving catch. It happens on 3rd down. It leads to a touchdown. I think it was like the Mahomes magic we've talked about. We haven't seen much of it all year, and we got to see it on that play. So I think it was the best play, best offensive play, best Mahomes play of the year.
I mean, it's hard to argue. A lot of my gasps this year have been the negative sort. Did we really just pop the ball up in the air again and get intercepted for a pick 6 again? Did we really just drop a big ball at the end of a game again? I will say, although it was called back, I did gasp when Travis Kelce threw the lateral to Kadarius Toney, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown. That would have been like the play of forever. That would have been one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my life. This Mahomes escapability, and then to be able to get the ball to Kelce and Kelce completely laying out. I mean, Andy Reid did like a dissertation on it. He really opened up talking about how it was such a special play. I loved it. I loved it. And it really spoke to, in a lot of ways, it's like I saw this both in Travis and in Mahomes. Like, the old guy still got it, right? Like, the old guy still got it.
Mahomes not old. We think he's old because he's been here so many times, and he's tied for the third most career playoff wins now, but he's not old.
We're talking Mahomes and Kelce. Do you have a best or a worst that's directly involving Travis? Because like I got some stuff, man. I've got some Travis stuff.
Here it is. Best player in NFL history, Jerry Rice.
Oh yeah,
it might be Jerry Rice. I mean, if you look at other players compared to like their position, I think Jerry Rice is the one that sticks out like above like the second best receiver of all time. There's some Randy Moss stuff nowadays, but it's fucking kids that don't know what they're talking about. Jerry Rice's numbers in the record books are legendary. So to pass him in anything is absurd. Like it's a legendary career accomplishment. Travis Kelce was unbelievable in this game. He's now played. So here's some stats: 17 career playoff games with Patrick Mahomes. He's gone for 133 catches, 1,516 yards, and 18 touchdowns. That is, so if you look at like season stats, because it's 17 games, which is a season basically, it would be the 7th most receptions in a season ever, most by a tight end. It would be the only tight end season, or there's only been one tight end season over 1,400 yards in NFL history. That was Travis Kelce in 2020. And it would be the 3rd most receiving touchdowns in a season of all time, any position. One more than Gronkowski, who holds the record for tight ends in a season with 17. So it's just like you're looking at like a full season of playoff football now with Travis Kelce, with Patrick Mahomes, and it's unreal. It's unreal. It was maybe one of his best games of his career when a lot of us thought he was nearing the end, and it was just like to pull that one out in this game. Even like this isn't like all playoffs long. Like the Miami game, he had real struggles. He was dropping the ball and looked still like a little slower, like he was being productive. But in this game, a completely different animal with 3 fantastic catches. What'd you like about Kelce out there?
So real quick on Jerry Rice. I saw plenty of Jerry Rice in my life, but a lot of it was like Raiders, Seahawks, like
40 years old,
late career Jerry Rice. But here's something that I think most people don't realize. If you're not like into some of the weird NFL stats and stuff, I think potentially the most unbreakable record in sports is the all-time touchdowns record. Jerry Rice has scored 208 touchdowns in his NFL career. Second place is Emmitt Smith at 175. Guys, people are not close. They are not close at all. You mentioned Randy Moss. He's like one of the guys. He's in the top 5. Randy Moss is 50-something touchdowns away from Jerry Rice. Like, so when you say like some of these records are unbreakable, I truly believe that all-time touchdown mark will never get touched. LaDainian Tomlinson, who had like 15 or 20 touchdowns every single season of his career, he's at like 130. He's not even close to Jerry Rice. It's unbelievable how productive that guy was. And so to see Travis in the postseason, guys, think about the people that Jerry Rice was playing with. Like, he was with Joe Montana, the guy that Mahomes is about to tie or pass in playoff postseason wins. So like you're getting to this point now where they are both shuffling their way into truly like historic history books type of stuff, never to be forgotten. And here's a couple things for you on Travis specifically, now that I've gone overboard on Jerry Rice. So first and foremost, I nearly forgot that he had that in him. His worst postseason game in the last 4. All right. We're talking like the last 4 years prior to 2019. All right. 2021, 2022, and 2023. In those 4 postseasons, the worst statistical game that he's had was 7 for 71 in 20 below temps against the Miami Dolphins in the wild card round this year. 7 for 71 is the worst postseason game that he's played in 4 years. Last year in the postseason, we thought Travis Kelce just did something in the postseason that we may never see again. If it wasn't for him, the Chiefs wouldn't have won the Super Bowl, because we've gone over the receiver numbers. They hardly did anything apart from MVS in the AFC Championship game. Travis Kelce carried them. He played 3 postseason games last year to the tune of 27 catches for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. This year, a year later, a down year for the offense, a down year for Kelce. I mean, his numbers in the regular season pale in comparison to what he did last year. And here we are, 3 games into this postseason, 23 catches, 261 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's basically doing exactly what he did last year. And I don't think any of us really thought that was going to happen. And I'm going to credit Andy and Travis for sitting down in week 18 and saying the 16 yards or whatever I need is not important. I need to get my legs under me. I'm going to credit Travis Kelce for being a playoff performer, for knowing the lights are brightest. I've been saving myself for these games in some way, shape, or form. It is unreal how good he has looked in these games. When it's like, that what does it come from? I didn't know I couldn't do that. And I'm sitting here like, I didn't know you could still do that, Travis. And now 2 weeks off his feet before the Super Bowl. Woo-hoo-hoo, son, get ready.
I mean, he's had more productive games in his career, but like the quality of catches, we talked about that third down scramble play where he just completely lays out. I don't really remember ever seeing him do that. And it's like a sideways dive. Like that was a hell of a catch. He had the pluck on 4th and 2 when it's just like it's up high. Like Mahomes puts it in a perfect spot, but it's still like going up on it, full speed, full extension, and just like makes it look easy. I don't think that's that easy of a catch. And then also the touchdown where it's just, another perfect throw. But it's just like down here at your, like a little scoop, like a little gather. Like that was an amazing catch. So 3 amazing plays, when the Chiefs needed it most. And it was great to see him turn back the clock. He was fantastic.
Dirk,
okay.
People want to know, is he going to propose to Taylor if they win the Super Bowl? People want to know. The people want to know. Have you talked to Kiki?
I've
got a small report. It's been a while.
Yeah, she's following up. We're seeing where the Vegas odds land. We're judging those.
I can't believe that's actually like a live bet that is on the board. Will Kelce propose to Taylor Swift after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl?
You're not really a gambling guy, but it went from I think it was actually on the board at no, it's not going to happen, minus 300, which means you'd spend 300 to make 100. And it was like, holy shit, that's amazing odds. It's not going to happen. So this is just free money. And 30 minutes later, it was at minus 2,200, where you'd have to bet $2,200 to win 100. They just completely erred on it. I don't know if it was legit. I mean, I just saw a tweet that said it, but anyone who actually bet that is just got to be raking it in right now. That's got to be the bet of the year. But yeah, we'll get back. We're going to have a report on that next week. We've already got that scheduled.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a Super Bowl question. I jumped the gun. We got to pace.
Too excited here.
It's one of the things that Mahomes has talked about with the success in Super Bowls. You got to know how to pace yourself. It's a long day. You don't want to get too hyped early. You don't want to lose your energy when you're sitting there at halftime for an hour. And here I am, a week ahead of schedule. I want to talk about the Super Bowl.
You want to talk T Swift? He was almost so good that it was almost the thought crossed my mind that they weren't using Kelce down the stretch of the regular season to kind of keep it hidden.
Yeah.
And it's just to kind of make everyone think okay, he's lost a step. They're going to have to move on. Rashee Rice is the top dog now. This is the new offense moving forward. They got to move away from Kelce. And it's almost like they did it on purpose to kind of loosen up the coverage on him, not pay as much attention to him.
I want to believe you on that. I don't think that they just didn't use Travis. Everything's coming up, Chiefs. We always make them look like they're right and smart. I think he may have just been old and tired, and it's a long season.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible with JNU Andy.
This is true.
He's got his hand on everything, full control. He knows what's going on.
if nothing else, he was doing his best, like Chris Jones impersonation, where it's like, all right, I have started my route. I have pulled 2 defenders into my orbit, and now I am going to stop my route. I have done my job. This play is over. And I don't blame the guy because he's 34 years old. And it is a tough game, physical game.
All right, let's get to the man. I got down here, best QB season in NFL history. You kind of took umbrage when I said this before, but Patrick Mahomes in 2022, one of the few quarterbacks to win NFL MVP and Super Bowl MVP, and his stats were much better than any other quarterback that did that in the same year. So I kind of called it maybe not the best quarterback season, but like the most accomplished NFL season in NFL history. But now Patrick Mahomes' playoff stats come along. We talked about how they've now played 17 games in the playoffs, a full season. Here's Patrick Mahomes' stats in his 17 career playoff games. 14-3 record, 67% completion, 4,800 passing yards, 458 rushing yards, 39 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, and only 7 picks. So that's his stats. I looked up those stats with the metric of the floors of 4,800 passing yards, 39 passing touchdowns, and 300 rushing yards. I wanted to see how many quarterbacks have done that in NFL history in one season, like what Mahomes just did in his playoff career. One quarterback has done it. It was Patrick Mahomes in 2022. That's the only other quarterback that hit those thresholds. So we are now seeing him perform like this in the playoffs at a career regular season level when it's clearly down a step. He's playing against the best defenses out there, the so-called number 1 defense. And just unbelievable what he's doing. And now his new superpower is, I think Kylie said that. Brandon Kylie tweeted out the stat, and I think he used the term superpower, but it is his new superpower. In his last 6 playoff games now, the last 2 years, he's taken 5 sacks and he's thrown 0 interceptions. And he's done 4 games in a row now this season with 0 turnover-worthy plays. Like, it's not even like this could have been picked. This could have happened. None of that. He's just out there. We talked about Mahomes needing to take it up another level. He has absolutely done that. And it's just the transformation of him from, gunslinger, putting up 40 points a game, to what he's doing now is unbelievable to see. He came out in this game on fire. Like, him and those first 3 drives in that first half, I guess, in totality, was just like, it was holy shit. Like, this guy is like how many tweets did you say, I'm never betting against Patrick Mahomes again? He is too good. Like, it was all over the place from all national people. It was wild to see.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't done, I don't know like what people consume. I listen to a lot of national coverage because I hear all the local stuff too, but I try as best I can to start listening to people that don't have like a Chiefs slant. I want to know what other people think. And that was like kind of the beginning take of almost every national podcast that I listened to over the last couple of days, is just, it doesn't matter. Like, don't look at the regular season. Don't look at the odds. If Patrick Mahomes is playing, you can't bet against this guy. And I feel like people say that in hindsight the last 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then they get to these games and they're like, Baltimore 4.5, let's go Ravens. And I don't know what people are thinking. I'm not necessarily following the betting aspect of it, but I do think I heard a really interesting question, and I'd love to at least see your reaction to this premise. Somebody asked Kevin Clark if Mahomes is Jordan or LeBron, and Kevin Clark said he builds this take. He says, I think that Mahomes is Jordan, and here's why. And it's similar to what I was saying about Spags. Like, there are people that are going to say, if it weren't for Patrick Mahomes and like guys' careers around him, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, some of these guys are never really going to get their shot because of Patrick Mahomes. And that is how Jordan was in terms of being a competitor. where it's really interestingly different about him is how he has carried himself, the amount of patience that he's had with his teammates, the willingness to continue to throw the ball, especially we'll probably get to that play where he throws to MVS, maybe the other best play of the season. I just think that, like, you know, if you make a mistake in a key situation against Michael Jordan, like, night, man, like, you're not gonna play the next game or something. And with Mahomes, it's just, I'm gonna keep firing. And that kind of teammate that he's been, and it's like every single time that whether it's an opposing team or even his own team, every time that the difficulty gets raised, he just is fine. It doesn't seem to impact him. The numbers might dip for a little bit, but his ability to accept every challenge that comes his way and then just get to work and figure it out, he's just so special in that way, man, because it just seems like you can't really rattle him. And I don't know, like, we're at a point now where the AFC is so stacked, and people talk about, like, you know, whether it's such a quarterback and coach game or whatever, like, active right now in the NFL, Mahomes doesn't really have any contemporaries. Truly, he doesn't. And I think that a team like Buffalo and a quarterback like Josh, we want to put them up there. But God, man, when you look at the raw data, like, they're just not close. Mahomes is in a league of his own. Look at the playoff experience that he has, the number of wins that he has compared to all these other quarterbacks. And we're like, oh man, look at this talent, and look at this talent, and look at this talent. None of them have done it. And Mahomes is out here, he's lapping everybody in the playoff experience, and it's only going to get harder for other teams from here. He's such a remarkable specimen as an NFL player, and I can't believe he's ours.
It's unreal to watch him. His competitive drive is unbelievable. And yet you said what you did, and Mahomes sitting here with 14 career playoff wins after that game. Lamar sitting at 2 would have gotten his 3rd, and yet people are still asking, you know, does he take the quarterback championship belt if they win this game? Like, I know that's kind of just like a daytime talk show thing, like that question that they have to ask, but it's just like ludicrous. And I like the comparison where it was just like, I heard it on Nick's show, but I'm not sure who else. I think I don't know. I'm not sure who coined it. Maybe Nick. But it's not. What am I trying to say? Oh, Brady versus Manning or something like that, where it's like two rivals going back and forth. It's Tiger Woods against every single person that they tried to prop up against him. Anybody who would win a tournament, like, oh, is this the new guy for Tiger Woods? And it was Phil Mickelson for a while. I guess he'd be like the Josh Allen in this because he's been around the longest. And then it's just like, you know, somebody else wins a major, like, oh man, can he, you know, replace Tiger Woods? And it's just like, no, like it's one, and then it's a whole bunch of people fighting for 2. And it was like the take last week was like, no, the rivalry should be between Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen for second best. Yeah. Like, that's the legit rivalry and like the interesting conversation. None of them are even close to his peer. And the crazy thing is, all of these quarterbacks that we're kind of comparing to them, they're still like on their rookie deals. They're all have gotten paid, but those cap hits haven't taken effect yet. And it's going to get infinitely harder for these quarterbacks: Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. Like, these quarterbacks that have all gotten paid, their cap hits haven't hit in yet. And when they do, it's going to be much harder. And it's just like, it's hard to compete with a veteran quarterback on a deal like we have with Mahomes right now. Like the Chiefs had to reinvent themselves. Like, people complained about the Tyreek Hill trade. It was for a reason, because we have to start paying our guy real money. Like, we're looking forward and making a plan where everyone else is just like, you know, maybe this is our year and we can go all in and maybe compete. It's just wild to see.
On the Tiger thing that you mentioned, something that I love about that is that Mahomes has the same aura about him. The, like, Tiger wearing red on Sunday, and somebody might have a 1 or 2 stroke lead on him, and they just crumble. They can't handle the pressure. He just looms over you as you're playing that round with him, trying to chase him, whatever. You know, it's the inevitability of things, as people have talked about with Mahomes. And like, I absolutely think that the Chiefs coming out over those first 2 drives in this game, and Mahomes being able to throw the ball effectively, get it out quickly. The Chiefs are moving the ball, and then it's suddenly like, oh, well, we see like the style that Mahomes is playing against us right now. And instantly Todd Monken's like, all right, Lamar, I guess you're going to have to play the game of your life. He forced that team to panic. And it's because he's so good and they have so much success. Like, teams don't know what to do. They shit their pants when they play against Mahomes every single time. Like, they're not up for it. It's unbelievable. And I believe the stat from Nick when he's like split Mahomes' postseason career and basically said like the one mistake that he's made is looking at that second half against Cincinnati. And then since then, it's like the numbers since the Cincinnati loss in the playoffs, that's the last 6 playoff games, right? Where he's like 6-0, hasn't thrown a pick, the completion percentage, the touchdowns, all of it. He has been perfect.
And listen to him talk about it because like he gets up there and talks about how he's like, I've had to learn to like kind of trust my defense and like be a different kind of quarterback and understand that I can't turn the ball over here. Like, we are on our way to winning. I can't be the one that kind of messes this up. And you saw that throughout the second half because he was being hesitant. I think there were plays to be made and he was just kind of like, he took a couple sacks when he didn't have to. And it's like, well, it's smarter to take a 2-yard sack and run the clock. And he wasn't forcing it because it didn't look good because it didn't score, but the whole time it was like the way they get back in this game is us making a mistake on offense. And that's what they've done all season. It's the mistakes that have cost them. And that's what they're set out to do now, to not make that mistake. They just figured it out. And that reeks of, Patrick Mahomes, that reeks of Andy Reid setting the culture, figuring out the team and then kind of molding it around that identity. Like that late in the season, like they re-established themselves, re-identified themselves in like week 17. That's insane. So it's just, that goes to everybody from top to bottom about how they reinvented themselves into what they are now. It's unreal to see.
When they became a defensive team, when they really fully, truly embraced it this year, I mean, that is the turning point for them in my eyes. And I think about that mentality that Mahomes has of like, we get into the playoffs and now I know that we're a defensive team. I have to try to put them in good spots. I'm not going to, make the risky throws nearly as often. I'm not going to put the ball really in harm's way. 4 straight games of no turnover worthy plays. It's the longest stretch of his career. I mean, it may be the longest stretch by any quarterback for a while. I wouldn't be surprised because it's just hard to do. The thing about it, like what I guess is so remarkable to me is that, we think about the style of play that the Chiefs have had for so long, and they're really in a new phase as a team. And so this run that we look at, the 5-year run that you said is arguably the best in NFL history, they have become a different team. And if look at these drive charts, folks, in the second half against Baltimore, the Chiefs punted, 5 times in the second half?
Yep.
I believe they had 5 punts after halftime. And honestly, I think at least 2, if not 3 of those drives, the offense still did its job. They moved the ball like 35 yards. They took 4 minutes off the clock, and then they pinned Baltimore back when Tommy didn't screw it up. Like they're able to switch the field. And it's like, we don't need points. We're up by 2 scores. But can you just continue to make it harder on the Ravens? Just tick, 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 and then punt it away. Just don't make a mistake. And they were perfect. They were perfect. I mean, he's unbelievable, man. Patrick Mahomes.
The best foresight. Patrick Mahomes saying that he could have thrown the ball a little bit shorter to MVS against the Philadelphia Eagles.
It was like best cap of the year.
Have you ever seen something where it was just like, when he said it, it's like, yeah, okay, Pat, whatever you're talking about. And yet here it is in the biggest moment of the AFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl, has the same guy open deep and throws it just a little bit shorter. And the guy comes through with the catch. Like, I thinking back to that, I was like, whoa. It's almost like this guy has seen the future or something. Like, because, I mean, when he makes that comment, you're just like, okay, he's sticking up for his guy, whatever. And now it's almost like, dude, he meant it. And he knew, and he was right. Like, he needed to throw it a little bit shorter. Like, I'm just like, holy shit. He knew.
I was listening to Mina and Dominique Foxworth, and I believe it was Foxworth that asked the question. He's like, but the real question is whether MVS, like when he thinks about it, he was like, yeah, man, like, I'm so glad I finally made that play. Or is he walking away from it like, yeah, Pat, you finally hit me, man. Like, what is MVS's response to making this play? Thanks, Pat, for finally putting it on the money. Like, I don't know. I mean, he very unlikely. It felt like, I think, for probably most Chiefs fans that play would exist. Maybe, that either of the plays last week would exist after the season that this guy has had. I mean, it's like a best redemption arc or something. I mean, like, if you have to rate how low things got for MVS to where he eventually has now ended up, we'll see what he does in the Super Bowl. Like, if you're looking at that, you're comparing it to like Sky Moore's punt return after fumbling it like 4 times on punt returns last year. I mean, guys, it's similar, right? It's McColl turning the ball over and then being the person that sparks the comeback against Houston. But MVS had like a full season of it. I mean, we're talking about, I think, multiple games where people are like, if he makes this catch, the game, like the result is different. People were like, had lost all faith in this player. Seemingly everyone, except Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And I don't even know. It's almost like it's not about faith, right? MVS, I believe, led the receivers in snaps in this game. He was just out there the entire time because obviously in some aspects they trust him. I still think he's only targeted twice, though.
I think it was second to Rice for snaps in the game. I don't understand how he's so unproductive. Like, he's clearly talented. You could see him turn on the burners there. He was fast. Like, he gets open. And, it's like, okay, well, he always drops it. He's credited with 3 drops on the season. Like, we all remember the big one, obviously, but it's not that much. It's more just like he's just gets all these snaps and it's completely unproductive. And I can't for the life of me figure out how. Like, he's clearly, he's talented. He's fast. Like, this guy should be, he's got Andy Reid. He's got Patrick Mahomes. Like, he shouldn't be this unproductive. It seems impossible.
Yeah.
But playoff MVS is a whole different thing. Sticking to the theme, worst time to fumble in the playoffs, apparently, because our guy, McCole Hardman, all the way down to 1 snap in the game. 1 snap.
Terrible prediction from me that he was going to be the auxiliary player that was going to come out and do something in this game. I'm like, I think it's going to be McCole this week.
We can't see that from everybody, I guess. Everybody has a line. Drops are fine. Fumbles at the goal line, not fine. Finishing up that theme here, worst $15 million spent. Odell Beckham.
Man.
Now, I kind of touched on this last week. The 0 wide receiver philosophy. Why didn't they sign a receiver? They could have done this, then this, and this. One of those guys was Odell Beckham. Now, I know Chiefs fans wouldn't have been happy paying him $15 million. I don't think the Chiefs ever would have done that. But Odell Beckham goes on for $15 million on the books. What do the Chiefs do instead? How about Omenahu for $8 million, Tranquill for $3 million, Mike Edwards for $3 million, and Donovan Smith for $3 million? I know that goes up to $17 million, so it's a little bit over. But look at the production that you're getting from those 4 players instead of getting it from 1 wide receiver, which is what a lot of people wanted the Chiefs to do. I want to shine light on it wasn't a bad strategy. They know at this time they're going to be carried by Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce. Everyone else, they can figure it out. They will figure it out. They need to be strong elsewhere. And we saw that just play out over time in the game. It's just like these guys are, Omenahu forces a sack. Tranquill might be the best player in the field. Mike Edwards filling in great. I think Donovan Smith's had a great playoffs. Like, we were all worried about him filling in after the neck injury and not playing for 6 weeks there. And I think he's had, probably not great, but I think he's been solid out there. And yet Odell Beckham puts up 4 for 34 in the playoffs. You hardly see him out there. I know he wasn't the only option or whatever, but just goes to show, like, they may not have signed a receiver, but they did smart things with the money and it ended up paying off.
I've been scrolling. I'm sorry that I haven't been making eye contact with you, especially for the audio audience.
I'm used to it. Her Dirkness is the same thing. She can't look at me.
I've been scrolling through his Twitter trying to find the tweet because he says he said something this offseason. Oh, here it is. I just found it. March 18th, 2023. I'm just so confused where the quote is from me that said I want 20. All I'm saying is 4 ain't enough. And I tell you what, you look at Odell's numbers this year, 4 million. Many people are saying that the Chiefs are the ones that offered the $4 million. It looks like the right amount of money. Nobody would be complaining if you paid Odell $4 million, but 15. I didn't want 20, folks. I didn't want 20, but got 15. Now, look, I will say that maybe in Odell's defense, it might be like a way that Lamar thinks that they're taking him seriously. I need more help. Odell's a headline player. Whether he's actually going to be able to do it on the field or not is another story. I think in the game against Houston, I want to say that they said that he only had like 2 or 3 targets. Like he was
hardly playing. He was under 50% of the snaps.
Yeah. So worst $15 million ever spent. I mean, I don't know how much.
Not ever. But I mean, it would have been the worst $15 million the Chiefs could have spent, I think.
There you go. I'll agree with that. I will agree.
Okay. Go here. All right. You talked about a character arc. I think you kind of teased this one unintentionally. Best character arc from the game, Tommy Townson. Dirk was getting into his old bag here. Going back to 2020.
Boy.
He had a couple bad punts in that Super Bowl I could not get over. I hated Tommy Townson for 2 full years after that. Finally forgave him. And yet, here he is in this playoff struggling. Here he was on Sunday, 30 yards on his first punt, and I tweet, there's the clutch punt from Tommy. His next punt sails into the end zone, waiting on Tommy's first ever good playoff punt. Sorry, Tommy. Third punt, 53-yard net punt. Gets an attaboy Townsend from me.
Mm-hmm.
Last punt, 47-yarder, downed at the 1-yard line, and I break out the all caps and I say, playoff Tommy. The character arc from that day, Tommy Townson starting off with a 30-yard punt, like, oh my God, here he goes. Every playoffs, it's the same thing. And yet by the end, here he is entering the playoff lore with all the other Chiefs.
I think I was like just before the 51-yarder. I mean, I'm just desperate. Like, can Tommy do a good one? Can we get a good from Tommy? I mean, he's lemon booty personified. It's like the guy steps into the playoffs. He's booming 60-yarders, like perfect coffin corner punts all year long. You're like, my God, we got an all-pro punter. He's a weapon. And you get into the playoffs, and he's spraying the ball all over the place, and not in a good way. I think that's a good thing in baseball. It's not good as a punter. It's not good. But hey, totally redeemed himself. Thanks, Tommy, for having 2 solid punts and really doing your job in the second half against those Ravens.
Busted out the Raiders for the Ravens.
Hate them.
All right, I think the last thing I got here, we can kind of do whatever after if you got any more. I'm going to go with best moment. Nick Allegretti after the game. I thought I kind of already spoke about this a couple times. I've watched this video like 10 times. Just like the pure emotion in his voice when he's talking about it, wanting to see the family, admitting that he looks at Twitter, looks up his name. I was taken aback by all of it. I've always liked Allegretti. I always just call him like a rhinoceros because it's just like, man, he is just a full head of steam. I think back to like that. There was a play. Damn, I meant to look it up, but there was like mid-season play. And it goes like 50 yards downfield, and there's like this wide view, this all-22 view of Nick Allegretti just motoring from the start. And he comes motoring down, and yet it's like, I don't know, Rashee Rice, maybe. I don't remember who it is downfield, but Allegretti eventually shows up and like pushes the pile 50, 60 yards downfield. And it's just like, what the hell is he doing down here? And it's just because it's just maximum effort all the time. But his interview after the game, I thought was phenomenal, and it will kind of stick with me. I know you had some thoughts on it too. What'd you think of that?
Honestly, when he starts speaking and his voice is quivering like that as he's trying to hold back the tears, I was like, my God, that sounds like Dirk and I after we won the Super Bowl. Like, both of us like just tough to talk about because you are so emotional about it and so thankful for it. So just getting to see that genuine side of a player, I mean, you can tell that he's a guy that isn't ever asked to say anything into a microphone. You know, he is a humble backup offensive lineman that might be able to start for a number of teams in the league, but like wants to be part of what's going on here. He was drafted by this team in the 7th round. I mean, honestly, Nick Allegretti, one of those draft picks where like you're sitting there in the 7th round and everybody's like, all right, where's the skill position player that shouldn't be on the board anymore? And it's like Nick Allegretti, center,
pass,
Illinois, camp body. And he's I believe in season 5 for the Chiefs now. I mean, he's on a second contract. I want to just say it's a 1-year deal. He might be an expiring contract for the team right now. But honestly, man, the thing I think that I loved so much about that moment that I wanted to like take a special second to talk about is when he mentions, you know, I really been trying not to look at Twitter, but I'm not gonna lie, like every time I opened it, I'd search my name and all it was just positivity coming from the fans. And he's like, most of the time I open Twitter, nobody says my name. Like I'm not on there. And some of this is wanting to celebrate like how Chiefs fans are and how much they love and support and reach out to their players. He's a guy that I was thinking a lot about throughout the week because having to step in for the best pass blocking interior lineman in the NFL, a first-team All-Pro, a guy that I think ended up maybe breaking that streak of consecutive starts, but like when he got signed here, had started all 80 games of his career for the Patriots. I mean, arguably one of the best, 15 or 20 offensive linemen in the NFL over the last decade. Tooney is unreal. And we don't even see everything that he does in terms of like in the meeting room. When they signed Joe Tooney, he instantly became the leader on their offensive line. And remember, folks, if you will, it's the same offseason that they got rid of Fisher and Schwartz. They had no experience and no leadership, and Tooney became, we are building a line around this guy. And anytime that we talked about this last week, like the only time that Joe Tooney's name even comes up is when people are complaining about his paycheck. We paid him too much, right? And he's still that good. And Allegretti having to be forced into that position. I mean, dude, any normal human being, which Allegretti totally appears to be, would have been absolutely terrified of this job. Like, he talked about how emotional the week was for him and how not just fans, but like all the guys there, everybody on the team just making me feel confident, making me feel welcome. All of that. He's not even being self-deprecating. He's just being vulnerable and honest. And like, dude, it was just such a raw and real moment. Like very rare that you get to see something like that. That right there, probably my favorite memory coming out of this game is seeing him talk like that.
Yeah.
That's me, big-hearted guy. What are you thankful for, Dirk?
I'm thankful that I found this play because I'm watching Nick Allegretti. It was actually the Christmas Day game. Remember our one good play that went to Richie James, and he pops up in the middle of the field, and he's literally 50 yards down the field, and Allegretti just takes off. It's just like, I mean, you're watching it, it's like, what is he doing? Why is he chasing after Richie James for no reason? And he kind of just like tackles him because it's a 60-yard charge from him. But he gets down there and he pushes the pile a little bit. But I think that kind of play just defines him. And I hardly noticed him in the game, which is the greatest compliment you can give him. And I did see like all the positivity. Like I think we're fine here because we trust Allegretti. He's going to get a starting job, whether that's somewhere else or here taking over for Tooney or Chase Smith. But he will be a starting offensive lineman in the NFL. I think he's really good. Yeah. I don't have anything else really. Everything else I think we'll save for next week for sort of a season-long show, or Super Bowl recap show. Maybe get a celebrity here if you tweet at any celebrities that you know that might want to come on the pod that have a big nose.
Your pressure works.
Nasally voice. If you want to tweet at them at all, urge them to come on next week. That could be fun. But do you have anything else this week you want to get to?
I have some things that I was trying to figure out, like, is this better for the Super Bowl or is this better for now? And I think I'm going to save them. I do think that I would be remiss if we didn't at least mention Isaiah Pacheco in this game just went to war. Like he was on the front lines. He knew, like, in many ways, I am kind of the sacrificial lamb today. I am going to get, 2.6 yards a carry or whatever it was after the first two drives. And dude, he battled. There were some 6 or 7 or 8 yard carries in there, and there are getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage carries in there. And every single one of them, Pacheco just lines up and puts everything that he has into it and tries to be the sledgehammer that he is. And I think that he is really helped change the attitude and the mentality of that offense, because he's a spark plug, man. Typically when you hear that, you think of like a smaller player. Darren Sproles was a spark plug, but God, he plays with so much energy and so much intensity. It's been a real pleasure to watch Pacheco in the playoffs, and this might have been like his worst playoff game. I didn't go back and look at the raw numbers to see if he still hit the like 75 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. I'm almost certain that he did. His carries were in the 20s, I believe. They just kept going to him, man. I truly, like, that's what I had in my notes, was like, Pacheco went to war this week. It was a hard game for him, man.
I think he had they were running the ball when the Ravens knew they were going to run the ball in the second half. So his numbers are 24 carries for 68 yards, which don't look good. But it's just running to a stacked box because they're just kind of tricking away clock at that point. Yeah. Love Pacheco. Love everybody. Love that we got to do a special edition best and worst. We've never really done this before. It was good to bring it back.
It was also good to see you as we got through the bests and the worst, kind of opening up that Andy Reid Hawaiian. Your original design, Dirk, and every once in a while we'll get a random tweet from a fan that's like, every time I wear this shirt, I get 47 compliments, and I'm like, yeah, I know, people love it. The Chiefs just had to send us a cease and desist. All right, well, I am very much looking forward to talking about the Super Bowl with you next week.
Hell yeah.
Maybe with or without the aforementioned Italian that some of you may or may not love from the amateur hour days of lore. Again, peer pressure works. Let's have the rallying cry. We'd love to see him. Folks, this has been Amateur Hour. I'm Ryan Scott Hall. He is his Dirkness, and nobody cares about Justin Herbert. Let's go Chiefs!
Hell yeah.